Hi guys, it's Alex. I'm back. I know it's been a while, but quarantine has kind of been fucking up my schedule, and I had exam week and I had a lot of stuff going on, so I didn't really have time to film, but I really felt like doing it again. So here I am, and this video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit about plants, but this time it's going to be about one of my other hobbies, which is reading. And during quarantine, actually before quarantine even started, I got myself into a routine of reading a lot more, and actually it's been going really well. I've read, I think, about 25 books so far since February, and I'm really proud of that because I've read more in this one year than I've read in my past 18 years of living. First, since I still kind of want to talk about my plants, I've been dealing with an aphid infection, and it was really bad. It started on my avocado tree, and it just spread through my entire room, and then it spread through my roommates' rooms, and it spread through our living room. So far, only my bell pepper plants have died, which I wasn't really sad about since they're only 1-year plants, and I didn't really expect them to do very well. I've gotten rid of the majority of them. The only ones that are still struggling a lot is my pink syngonium. It's been doing a lot better. I potted it down in the hopes of it not getting any more fungus gnats and just not having as much moisture, because I know that's something aphids like as well. And I just go through it every day. I just squeeze every single aphid I see. So this one's going a lot better. And then I also have 2 different Bacchias, which you saw in my first video, that are still a little bit infested with aphids, but they're doing better and they're not dead yet. And then my Philodendron Uberescens was struggling a lot, and also I'm pretty sure it has spider mites or something white on it. So I've been quarantining that one on my closet, and I've already had to cut off 3 leaves because they were just so misformed, and I'm really hoping it'll survive, but I'm not sure. And then my only other plants which I've gotten fungus gnats a lot were my 2 avocado trees and my banana tree. But since it's starting to warm up a lot, I've actually decided to put all 3 of them outside in the hopes that the heat and the sun will kind of help them grow, and then the colder nights will maybe kill off the aphids. I don't know. I really just wanted to get them out of my room because those were definitely the 3 main plants that were infecting all my other plants. So we'll see. If they die, yes, I'll be sad, but also I've really tried everything. I've done an alcohol spray, a soap spray, I've washed them down. I've just gone through every single leaf. I've cut off so many leaves from my avocado tree. It looks so sad right now. So if it dies, I'll be sad, but I've done everything I can. That's an update on my plants. And now I want to talk about books, because for the past 5 months, I've been reading a lot more. And I just wanted to go through what I read in May. So in May, I read the books 5 Rivers Met on a Wooded Plain, The Rise of Nine, which is part 3 of the I'm Number 4 series. Then I listened to The Great Gatsby, No Holding Back, still currently reading The Fall of Five, which is the 4th book in the I'm Number 4 series. So I just want to go through them one by one and what I thought about them. So I'm going to start with 5 Rivers Met on a Wooded Plain, which was, I think, thus far, the saddest book I've ever read. I bought it for like 1 or 2 years at like a Goodwill-esque store, and it's about 5 different people who all in some way or another were involved in a car crash. And before I started reading this book, I thought it was the beginning of the book is going to be the car crash, and then you're going to see the effect on those 5 people after the car crash. But it was a lot different than that, which I had to get used to. It was a little confusing at first, but after I think I read the second part of, or like the second person in the story, because it's 5 separate stories which you're reading through. After the second one, I definitely got into it a lot more. This book is beautiful. The way the writer writes the 5 different people, and every single person feels like an actual different person. The writer gives all these characters a lot of emotion and character, and they all feel very different, which is really nice. The only issue I had with the book is how the parts are very unequally divided. So the first part is only 40 pages, and the second part is around 60 or 80 pages, and the third part is 40 pages again, and then the 4th part is about 120 pages, and then the 5th part is only about 30 to 40 pages, which I'm sure there's a reason he divided it in that way. But for me personally, the 4th part started out very strong. Also, the way he decided to write the 4th person, I just think in the end it got very repetitive, and I kind of lost my interest in it. I would have liked if either the 1st or the 5th character, and for me personally mostly the 5th character, if that person would have gotten more pages in the book, because I think the fifth character kind of was the character that brought this entire book together for me. Because as I was reading, I liked all the stories individually, but as a whole, it felt very not cohesive. There's definitely some connections between all the characters, but none of them felt like they had the same struggle they were going through, I think. But then the fifth person, they just really brought it home for me. And I think the fifth person is also what makes this book very sad. I think 4 of the 5 characters have very tragic stories. I think the fifth character, even though he doesn't have the most physically tragic story, I think he mentally brings up so much, I think, anxiety. It's really weird how to explain it. I don't really want to spoil it. But for me, the main message I got from this entire book was, what is the point of making memories if we die anyway? And after I finished the book, normally I'm either very immediately sad or happy, or I usually feel very prominent emotion when I finish reading a book. But for this book, it was just like, I felt so empty. It was really awkward and weird. I was like, I should feel sad, but I don't really feel sad. But also, it's not a happy ending. It's an ending you think a lot about. And it's just weird how a book can give you such a different perspective on life. And I think there's definitely a reason for making memories, because if there wasn't, why would we be alive? But I don't know. It's honestly, of all the 5 books I've read this month, this is the one I'm going to recommend. For me, as I also read a lot of American books, it was very weird to read a British book, which might sound weird, but the author, definitely in the first character, brought out the British accent and the British, I think, humor. I also think this is very different from American books, which is very obvious because it's British and American, they're not the same. It's definitely not the best book I've ever read in terms of story, but in terms of like character and emotion, it is one of the best books I've read so far. Then the next book I read was The Rise of 9, which is the 3rd part in the I'm Number 4 series. So I'm Number 4 is about 9 aliens who go to Earth because their planet is destroyed, and they have special powers which they develop over time. And the plan is that those 9 aliens in the end will kill their invaders and repopulate their old planet. But the problem is that the aliens that destroy their planet follow them to Earth, and they're now trying to kill those 9 aliens. And the thing about it is that they can be killed, but only in order. So every single alien got a number. So kill number 1 before you can kill number 2, and number 2 before you can kill number 3. These aliens are now trying to get stronger and prepare themselves to fight and defeat the alien race that destroyed their home. So yeah, that's what I'm Number 4 is about. And you're kind of seeing their journey throughout the years of discovering themselves, discovering their powers and stuff. I remember reading the first book of that when I was, I think, about 15. And then for some reason, I never finished it. And then when I started this challenge with myself, because I challenged myself to read 52 books in 52 weeks, I'm going to finish this book series. I bought all 7 of them, and I read book 2 in March, and then book 3 I read in May. And book 3, I liked it. It definitely brought the best aspects of like book 1 and 2 together. But the biggest question for me was, there's still 4 books to come, and I feel like they're already nearing the ending, which is probably not true because I still have 4 books. But I hope towards the ending of the series, I don't feel like he's stretching it out, but we'll see. What I did really like about this book is that they had 3 points of view. You have the point of view from number 4, number 6, and number 7. Kind of the same as with Five vs. Men on a Wooden Plane, but not as well. Every single character definitely feels very differently written, which I think is really fun. You can also look forward to reading certain parts. For me, I didn't enjoy reading the parts of number 4 as much as I did reading the parts of number 6 and 7, but I feel like that might also be a preference for some people, what they prefer to read. Definitely not the best book I've read, but I feel like it's because it's the 3rd book in a series and they're kind of building up to the big conflict. So we'll see how that turns out. I feel like what kind of summarizes this book in one quote is near the end. One of the characters says, "It's like stopping a tsunami with Swiss cheese." And for some reason that just kind of sums up the whole book for me, because it's a weird fucking quote. Like, it doesn't make sense. Kind of like these books that don't really make sense. But in the setting, this quote makes sense. And I feel like in the setting of this world, what the writer is writing kind of makes sense. And I don't know. We'll see how it ends. For now, I'm still very much enjoying it. And as I said, I'm still reading the 4th part. So we'll see. And I guess I'll keep you updated. Then the 3rd book I read or listened this month was The Great Gatsby. And I know it's a classic, and I know it's supposed to be this great, amazing book, but I didn't get it. And honestly, that is something I have with a lot of classics. I try to read classics, and I mainly listen to classics because they're usually online as free audiobooks on either Spotify or on YouTube. So I usually listen to classics, and there's a bunch of them that I enjoyed very much. But The Great Gatsby is just one of those books where I was listening to it and I was like, this just feels like a generic book. And I don't know why it's made out to be such a cult classic. Yes, it's a good book. It's written very well. The language is very nice. I think the setting the writer created is immersive, and I think it really feels like you're in that time period. The way he describes all the scenery and like how they're acting. But for me, the story wasn't what I expected it to be, and the story was also kind of disappointing. I mean, I didn't have a lot of expectations. I guess I was expecting more. I mean, I still continue reading classics, but I've definitely steered away from them. Near February and March, I definitely read at least 2 or 3 classics a month, and now I'm only reading maybe one a month because I've been noticing I've enjoyed reading classics a lot less. So we'll see. I still have to see the movie. My roommate tells me the movie is very good, so maybe the movie will change my mind. And as well with this book, I think the ending did bring a lot of, I guess, conclusion to the story about how even though you're super rich and you pretend like you're super happy and you have all these big and fancy parties for people you love, in the end, if you die and no one shows up to your funeral, did you really live a fulfilling life? It still wasn't the book for me. Well then, after a very sad book and a book I didn't understand, I decided I'm gonna read a very juicy and lovey-dovey book. So one of my friends reads a lot of YA, and one of the books she had was No Holding Back from the Dutch Cove trilogy, and it's technically the second part. You don't need to read the first part to understand this book, and it's about 2 guys, Preston and Nathan is in love with Preston, but Preston is a very good swimmer and he's on a very professional level, and he wants to join this team so he can become even better and maybe even participate in the Olympics. So Preston, he went to a tournament, and if he wins this tournament, he could get accepted to a very high-ranking team, but the results wouldn't come in until later the year. So then Nathan and Preston decide to go to Europe. The thing is, Nathan is in love with Preston, and Nathan wants to tell Preston because he's scared if he doesn't, he'll lose him to swimming. But Preston is very oblivious and also too obsessed with swimming. So the entire story is them traveling through Europe, and Nathan kind of getting up the courage to tell Preston that he loves him, and Preston just kind of realizing that he needs to take a step back from swimming. The book is very sweet. It's also written from both of their perspectives. I think the ending is the juiciest it could have been. Normally, I'm not a fan of very juicy endings, but for this book, I was like, I kind of need it because I've been reading so much sad shit. I need some lovely, juicy romance in my life. So it was really nice to read it. I think what I really enjoyed is that it was a really fast-paced book. It's only about 300 pages and you just fly through it. There's one point in the story where I think the jump they make from Europe to the US is very sudden, and I think that's the only time I really got annoyed by how fast-paced the book was. I guess it was kind of needed to make sure that it didn't feel like they were slowing down. What I did think was very funny is that the writer admits in the ending of the book, when she talks about herself and how she came to write this book, that she's never been to Europe, which I think is always very funny when Americans write about Europeans and how Europe is when they've never been there, which I think is not fair to blame them for, because Europe is very expensive, and going to Europe for an extended period of time is very expensive. So I think it's fair. I think it's funny. She tells about how her parents told her about Europe a lot, so from that experiences she wrote about Europe. Do I think is it even close to the best book I've ever read? Definitely not. Was it a book that I enjoyed reading because it was kind of mindless and just an easy read? Definitely. Am I gonna read any other of those Dutch Cove trilogy books? Definitely not. And also within the book, you definitely notice that there was a part 1 and a part 3 because there's characters introduced with issues that they're not resolved because they're gonna be resolved further on. One thing that I think the writer should have done better is to differentiate between the 2 points of view. For example, in the I'm Number 4 series, the different points of view are split up into chapters, so every chapter is at least one person, and when the points of view are intertwined, they differentiate with different fonts. But this book, they kind of changed between points of view within the chapter, which I wouldn't mind, but the problem is because both of those characters are male and both of them are usually in the same setting together, sometimes it would be very confusing when the point of view would switch, and sometimes I had to go back and see what point of view I'd be reading from, which could have been done better by maybe just splitting it up into chapters. Every time a chapter switches, you switch from a different point of view. I don't know. I'm not a professional writer. I couldn't tell you. This is just what I found. That was, when I was reading the book, I sometimes got very confused by, am I reading from Nathan's point of view or from Preston's point of view? But that's also, I guess, something I should maybe work on, because sometimes I do feel like I don't pay enough attention while reading. And I just wanted to share a quote from the book. This is not actually from the book itself. It's from the ending of the book, when the writer tells about how she came to write this book. And I really think it's why I like this book, because it's gay. It's very gay, but they didn't make it a point. Sometimes I get very annoyed when writers write books with the gay characters and the entire story is about the fact that they're gay, which I think, yes, it's good that we need to be more accepting of LGBTQ, and I think LGBTQ books are becoming a lot more mainstream, which is fucking awesome. But sometimes if an entire book is based on the fact that someone is gay, it takes away from the actual story. And with this book, the fact that they're gay wasn't a problem. It wasn't a point. It was just they're gay, that's it. Nothing to talk about. It's just normal. The writer didn't use the fact that they're gay as a focal point of the story, but it was a side point, and the actual main driving force in the story was their love for each other, which I think was great. And the quote that I really liked, which I think established this point even more, was, oh my god, one more time. I've always been a believer in everyone's right to love. We no longer live in a boy meets girl world. I'd like to believe that we're now in a person meets person world. I don't know. I liked it. It was juicy. It was fun. So the last book I read, well, not read, I'm still reading. I'm only at around page 40, but this is the 5th book I've read this month, so that's definitely okay for me. This is the 4th part of I'm Number 4. It's the Fall of 5, and thus far, I've liked it. They switched up the points of view from the characters, so we're still reading from point 4's point of view, but we got somebody else's point of view in there as well, which honestly, I wasn't expecting that the writer was going to choose this person's point of view, but I like it a lot. It's definitely switching it up a bit, and also this character is, I think, a change from what we've been currently reading, so I'm excited. I'll keep you updated on what I think about it. So, next month, I'm planning on reading The Fault in Our Stars, which is going to be my YA book for the month. I've seen the movie, but still, I think I'm going to enjoy it. I've had a lot of people tell me that they enjoyed it a lot. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of John Green's writing style, I think it's a very good writing style in between YA and mature, where it's still easy to read, but it doesn't feel childish. So we'll see. I might make a video next month and tell you what I thought about it. Then the next one I'm reading, or planning on reading, is A Brief History of Time by Stephen King. I've been putting off reading this book a lot because I also need to read for my bachelor. I don't think I'll enjoy reading informative stuff on my own, but now that I'm nearing the end of my year, I'm going to read it, and I hope I enjoy it. I did physics in high school, and I definitely did not enjoy it. The only parts I enjoyed was space and time, and, well, this is a book about time, so let's hope I enjoy it. Then I'm also planning on reading the rest of the 4th part of I'm Number 4, and I'm going to try and read the 5th part as well. I don't know if I'll per se definitely read the 5th part, because I'm trying not to rush through them, because I think I'll enjoy it more if I space it out a bit. So you'll also probably see it in next month's video if I actually decided to read part 5 as well. And then I'm also still deciding if I'm going to read Circe by Madeline Miller, or if I'm going to read The Kite Runner. My favorite book of all time is Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. So I'm excited to read Circe, but my roommate told me that Circe is definitely not as good as Song of Achilles. We'll see if I like it as much. And The Kite Runner, I've been wanting to read this book for a very long time. I just never got around to it, but now I borrowed it from one of my friends, so I have it back at home. And I think if I make it through this month, I'm going to try and read 5 or 6 books, since, as I said, I'm nearing the end of my year, and I think I'll have more time to read. And then I'm also thinking about getting a subscription service to sort of Audible site. I enjoy Audible. I've had it once for a month, but my problem with it is that it's very expensive, and you, technically speaking, only get 1 book a month and then 2 Audible credits for Audible Originals. But knowing myself, I go through audiobooks very fast, and I just want to be able to listen to as many audiobooks as I can. So I know there's one called Storytel, which one of my roommates has, and she enjoys it a lot. I think it has less books on there, but still, I'm thinking about doing that one because you don't have the 1 book a month limit. So yeah, that's what I've been reading this month. This is what I'm going to read next month. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next video. I don't know if the next video is going to be about plants or about books or something else. I just really felt that I wanted to talk about my books because honestly, it's something that have been keeping me a lot more happy lately and something that I'm very proud of myself during this time of quarantine. It's been really hard to keep myself happy, and honestly, one of the things that has kept me going and kind of enjoying life a lot more is reading. So, I don't know, leave a like, subscribe, tell me what you want to see me read next, give me suggestions. If you didn't like this video, tell me that you didn't like the video, and I'll see you next time.